And we're back again, baby. Okay, la la la. What's the best budget food for a broke uni student? Pasta, probably pasta. Couscous. Couscous. It's so easy to make. You can get some with like the flavouring included, or you could easily go get the stock cubes and all those kind of things. That's super easy. You can make soup, you know, fresh vegetables. It's good for you. It's easy to make. You can store it. It will last for a while. I have a cooking series called Chef Like Nabs, but it's mostly like a joke, by the way. Don't take it too seriously. So you can check that out, but there's not much on there that you could actually benefit from as a broke student. What you can do, if you're not that interested in cooking, that is, try and cook like at the start of the week and leave things in the fridge. And then if there's a really good meal that maybe you bought from home, leave that in the freezer and then save those for rainy days because you will have many of them. Spaghetti bolognese, you can even make that vegetarian and vegan if you want to. Super easy. Get a pack of sausages from Tesco. You know, bada bing, bada boom. I don't know what I'm on about. There are so many easy recipes, but I'm not the best person to give them to you. I mean, I am a professional chef and everything, but yeah. Google it. BBC Foods, even. I don't know. Uncle Roger. To be honest though, if you're not actually interested in cooking, you don't want to waste your time doing it. I know that for a lot of people it's enjoyable. Don't know who those guys are. And it's like stress relief. Can't relate. But if that's not you, then I was going to say just eat in your halls, but to be honest, that could be expensive and it doesn't always taste that good. But do try it. And if not, then work on making like a food schedule where you can make things in advance. Cook with your friends. That'll be way more fun, you know? Do that. Let me know how it goes. What are some habits or hobbies one should enforce if they want to attend Oxford? Well, I think you know yourself better than I do. I think try and get into the habit of setting time aside to revise, maybe, and also having time for yourself, because in Oxford you might neglect yourself basically, and self-care is super important if you want to thrive long term. But there is a lot of like social events going on at Oxford, so it's not just work, work, work. In fact, sometimes it's too much play. So I guess you need to get used to making the balance between your private and educational life. I don't know how else to say it. Don't be too strict on yourself before coming to Oxford though. Like, you're not a robot. You don't want to instill all of these hardcore habits. Like, for what? For what, you know? But if you could do anything, as I said before, and I will probably continue saying, time management is key. Try and instill that in yourself if you can, and don't be too hard on yourself if you can't. How's COVID-19 influencing your education? I have graduated already, so it hasn't really influenced me. However, I know that it has influenced current students, and it's quite sad to see because you're still paying the money. Hopefully you get a reduced rate, but I honestly don't think that would happen. For people who do subjects like Chinese, I know that the year abroad has been a bit of a tricky situation. Current first years, like there's one that I'm talking to, I think their year abroad should be fine for next year, but obviously current second years, that had to be cancelled, and that's quite sad because for me that was the highlight of my course. But that's not the same for everybody because I know people in my year group who didn't actually enjoy the year abroad. So yeah, depends on your personality. I feel for you guys, but I hope that you can make the best of the situation. And yeah, it's not something I'm experiencing, so I can't speak on it. Being as gifted as yourself, they assume, I'm assuming you've come across the atheist phase a lot of students from Islamic backgrounds face. How did you cope with the internal conflict? How does... I'm trying to see the link, but okay. I didn't really go through that, no. I know a lot of people who have, and like personally, I don't drink, I never have. I know some Muslims who have, you know, dabbled or tried that kind of thing, but, you know, that's their life, that's their journey, and that's not to say that if you go to Oxford or any other university, that's the path that you will take. You are free to make your own choices and try your best not to be influenced by other people, because if you got into something like drinking because you were in an environment where all your friends drink and drinking isn't something you wanted to do, so you look back and regretted it, just assess the situation. Like, just look at who you're surrounded by and maybe move to a different friendship group. But, you know, if that is something you wanted to try, then that is your choice, ultimately. In terms of the atheism stuff, no. I think in some ways university strengthened my faith, and I know that happens for a lot of people, so that's great if that happens to you. I wouldn't be too worried if you think that you're going to turn atheist by going to uni. I know some people thought that of me, but I'm still here. I'm strong, okay? I'm strong. I would also say though, there's nothing wrong with questioning your faith. Not necessarily turning to atheism, because that's like on this end of the extreme, and then being super religious is here. Maybe be like here. I think you should question your faith. As a Muslim, for instance, we are encouraged to question your faith because at the end of the day, it would strengthen your faith once you get the answers to your questions. And for me, if I don't have the answers to a question that I'm asking, it just means I need to search harder for the answer. And in the process, I learn a lot of very interesting viewpoints that are different to my own and also like are scholarly and those kind of things. In short, I didn't really have the urge to turn atheist, but I think there were moments where I reflected on my faith a lot because of things that were happening around me and also to myself. But those were very valuable experiences, and I wouldn't say that you should try not to have those. I think you should have those, and that makes you a better religious person, regardless of your religion. ... With the workload, is there still always time to pray? How's Ramadan and fasting and stuff? Is it a lot harder to get food that's halal? With that kind of thing, it's just worrying me. What I said to them is that, in short, it's very possible to practice Islam at Oxford, and there are things to do besides drinking, by the way. When I was in first year, I think most of the events revolved around drinking, like in my college. But I think since then, there's been a lot of efforts to include people who don't drink, not just for religious reasons. Obviously, people don't drink for a bunch of reasons, but I was very surprised that uni is full of alcoholics, pretty much. Like, everybody drinks so much. Too much, I think, but that's on you. If you want to do it, that's fine. But yeah, don't worry, there are things to do besides drinking. For starters, go to the ISOC and just go to your college, because I'm sure they would have a bit more wholesome events. Secondly, practicing your faith, as I said in the previous question, kind of is fine. There is the Muslim prayer room, and some other colleges have like faith spaces. You could also pray in your room, that's fine. Fasting also, it's okay because you have the ISOC where you can break your fast, and people don't really question you when you're fasting, although I can't speak for everyone because now that I think about it, there were some experiences I heard of, and I think it featured in my discrimination video, I can't remember. Generally speaking, it's completely fine to practice your faith, and good luck to you if you plan to do that. I should also know, by the way, that one of my pet peeves is being asked silly questions, which I know is subjective, and also repeating myself, which is why this happened. There have been so many people who ask me questions and even asked me to help them get in contact with certain people and do all these things, which I did happily help them with. I'm just hoping with this video, to be honest, it saves me from repeating things. Watch this and I hope that it answers a lot of your questions. I'm Chinese, but I grew up abroad. My Chinese is not good. I'm doing IB, which included Chinese as language B high level. Will that be helpful for applying to the course? IB is another qualification in the UK, by the way, equivalent to A-levels. As far as I know, Chinese people can take the course. It might not be very fun though, because even though you might not be good at it, a lot of it would come naturally to you, or you already know most of it. And the IB is fine as a qualification. So yeah, from what I've seen though, not many Chinese people do take the course. There have been some people who lived in China, but they weren't Chinese themselves. That's as far as I know, really. Is there racism in Oxford University? Be honest, please. I think it's totally rude to discriminate people just because Oxford is for posh, ignorant people. Well, I mean, that doesn't really make much sense, but okay, it trailed off. So I think it's too big to generalize. Like with many places, yes, there is some racism, but I wouldn't call it a racist place. And I think I already said this before. Yes, I won't deny there is racism on a structural level, personal level. Of course, there are so many students. I don't think they all experience it, which is great, but it is there. However, overall, I wouldn't call Oxford University a racist place. If you want to know more about these experiences, though, then just watch the discrimination video or just read about it online, because a lot of people were talking about it in most recent times. How were you able to find halal food and places to worship whilst in China, Japan and Korea? I did a year abroad in Beijing, which is in China. I then visited Japan and Korea. I don't think I went to any mosques in Japan and Korea, but I did see some in Beijing. They were really pretty. In terms of places to worship though, they were way too far for me to go there regularly, so if I wanted to pray I could just do that in my room. You have to adapt in any place that you're in. It might not be easy for you to pray or, you know, meditate or whatever it is that you want to do, but you can find the space for that. In terms of fasting, it was quite difficult on my year abroad because I was all on my own. The only Muslims I knew lived super far. Everyone around me was not Muslim or just not practicing, so it was just me, and it was super hot as well because it was summertime in China, very hot. So I was very thirsty, I wanted water and ice cream, and I couldn't have it. But I got through it, and I guess it's not meant to be easy, so yeah. My question is, since you did Chinese and picked up Korean later on, was it easier for you to do that rather than doing a dual Chinese and Korean degree? I need to get some fresh air now, so yeah, you can read the answer on the screen. Bye. In all honesty though, I did answer this person properly. I even gave them audio messages. In short, I would say do not do subsidiary Korean. Just don't do it. People in the years above me told me not to do it, and I did. I told people in the years below to do it, and they did. What happened? We all regretted that. We all struggled, and it just wasn't very good. Why? Because it's just not taught well at all. Like, ugh. How do I say this? It's a good course. It is fun, you know. One of my classmates, no. It's a good course. However, it's super outdated and the learning methods are very... I'm trying to think of how to say this nicely.
A few moments later.
Just don't do it, okay? Just don't. It's very stressful, disorganized, if I'm gonna keep it real with you, you can get through it. A lot of people did and they got good grades. However, how do I explain this? If you do Korean as part of your Japanese or Chinese degree, I know more about the Chinese side obviously, you get so much work on top of your actual main degree and it's not worth as much in terms of your grade at the end. The workload is intense. I don't think it's taught very well. There's very little focus on the spoken element. In fact, you don't actually have a spoken exam for Korean. I found it kind of boring at times. It was very challenging. I don't think it was taught very well. Not for me, not for some other people that I know. Maybe it would be for you, so do it if you really want to do it, but I honestly don't think it's worth the hassle. Like, it's very fast-paced. You have to teach yourself a lot of stuff at home as well. And actually, let's just be real for a second. Why is it that in my classes, everybody was using Google Translate and the Korean equivalent in class because there was too much work to do or like it was just too difficult? People were pretending that they did the work when they didn't. And in the long run, that doesn't benefit you. And of course, that says more about the students being bad students. But I feel like they were put in that position because they didn't really have a choice and they were struggling. So just don't do Korean, okay? Just don't do it. If everybody stops doing Korean because of this video, don't come for me. I didn't realise I have that much power, okay? Make your own choices, but I'm just telling you, do not do Korean as a subsidiary at Oxford. Don't do it. I get nightmares sometimes. I really do. But the tutors, by the way, the tutors are very nice. They're great people and they're very interested in their subjects, so that's very nice to be around. I just think the course is a bit tragic. I'm getting a lot of religious questions, wow. If we are studying there, will we face any difficulty for our religious practices such as wearing a scarf, headscarf, and how do you pray 5 times a day? Speaking for myself, I only face like minor how do you define minor, major? I don't know. I brush a lot of things off and I don't remember a lot of experiences that I've had, to be honest. So yes, I experienced some difficulty, but I think I'm quite a strong person and it didn't affect me much. I hope you don't go through anything, but I think by the time you do go to Oxford, you would probably be surrounded by a lot more headscarf wearing people and a lot more religious people, not just Muslims. So there's strength in numbers and I hope that they can comfort you if anything does happen. But I don't think you will experience anything bad. Most people don't. Fingers crossed, inshallah. And in terms of praying, there's a prayer room, so you'll be fine. Do you have any tips to revise for mocks that are in a day? Well, I guess in that case you need to prioritize what you need to revise, and anybody else who's watching this, obviously this wasn't your question, try not to leave your revision for the day before the exam. I know that's a very real experience. I've been through that and I'm sure we all will, but just try your best not to. Time management. Did I not say time management is key? I'm gonna have to split this in half, honestly. Did you come across any mature students studying at Oxford? Yes, but not as many as the people who were around my age group. One of my close friends was a mature student. There were also postgrads, but you mostly see them at events rather than in your day-to-day because you're obviously surrounded by people who are doing your courses and those are usually of a certain age. What college do you attend in Oxford? I went to University College, the oldest college. It's contested, but it's also a fact, so University College, UNIV. Were there any black students on campus? Campus is huge because Oxford isn't like other universities. It's like a city-based university. Colleges are spread out throughout the city. And yes, there were black students, but in my time, back in my day, there weren't many. I think there definitely are more now. In my year group, I think there was just one in my college. And then in other colleges, there were few. Some colleges I'm sure didn't have any, but it's increasing and hopefully continues to increase. What stereotypes from Oxford are true and which ones are false? I don't know, stereotypes aren't very helpful, in my opinion. Okay, one that is false. Only rich people go to Oxford, not true. Only white people go to Oxford, not true, but it seems very true statistically. Only clever people go to Oxford, not true. How do you measure stuff like that? I just know that someone asked me that question before and quite a few people have, and I think it's quite sad because when they ask, it makes it seem like they think they're not clever and stuff, but just remember, there's different measures for intelligence, basically. If you're not book smart or if you didn't do well in a test does not mean that you're dumb, and it obviously probably means that you're better at other things. Even though if you failed one test, I'm sure you passed the other one, so you gotta weigh it up, you know. Do you think getting a first is important? Do you think it matters? I don't think it's important, but I do think it matters. If you got a first, you should congratulate yourself. That's an amazing achievement. Yeah, it matters on paper. You'll definitely get way more job opportunities. I don't think it's the be-all and the end-all though. Like, a lot of people that I know were not aiming for first, and they were happy with whatever they got in the end. So that's great. If you go to Oxford just because it's such a smart university, don't expect that you have to get a first at the end of it because it's going to be very difficult and you're going to have to work very hard. But it is possible and it does matter, so applaud yourself if you do it. But don't be worried if you don't get first. Did you buy an Oxford hoodie or a hat while you studied there? Well, I did buy a hoodie, but not while I was studying there. It was while I visited with my mom on an open day or something. And I remember someone was saying that, like, students here don't actually wear those things. You can tell when it's a tourist. And that kind of put me off because in my head I was like, yo, I bought one already. So, but it's not a big deal. If you like it, buy it, wear it. It doesn't matter. Everybody wears college merch, which I think is kind of overdone and a little bit trashy. But hey, that's my opinion. If you like it, you wear it. I wore my hoodies as pajamas sometimes and like just chilling in my dorm. So yeah. But if you want to wear it outside, you do that. Buy a souvenir by all means. I didn't buy a hat, but I did model some because I was a brand ambassador for the Oxford University shop and I modeled for them sometimes. So they are good quality, I can tell you that much. Do you feel more elite studying at Oxford? So I graduated already, so do I feel more elite graduating from there? No. It's an achievement. I don't negate that. Like, I think it's special and I'm proud of myself. But I don't feel elite because, like, my worth doesn't come from the university I went to. And it never has come from grades. But I don't want to downplay the fact that I went to Oxford because a lot of hard work, tears were involved. It's difficult, but it's like, it's not something that I mention to everybody that I meet. It's not a big deal. But yeah, I think it's a very cool achievement. And if you got into Oxford, then congratulations. What's the first thing people say when you tell them that you studied at Oxford? Well, a lot of the time they're surprised because I say a lot of dopey things. Besides that, they're like, wow, no way. Or a brown girl, a hijabi, oh my god, that's so inspiring, that's amazing. But they say a lot of nice things, they compliment me, which is really nice. When they hear that I did Chinese, they're like, oh my god, that's such a weird course, or that's tiny, or like, I didn't know they offered that at Oxford, and all those kind of things. Is there any tension between Oxford Brookes University and the University of Oxford? Nights out, example. I don't think there is any tension, to be honest, like, because they barely mix. I think the main time that they do mix is for events, like ice hockey, I think, and like maybe quizzes and wider college sports and stuff, like football. I think there's some matches against each other, so that's obviously tension. But on a day-to-day basis, like, people barely mix because the campuses are kind of far away from each other. The Oxford Brookes campus, for instance, is on another side of Oxford, and then the Oxford University colleges are spread out, so they don't really mix much. I think sometimes people say some stupid things and talk down about like Oxford Brookes students, which I don't think is very nice. Memes or like just calling them not very clever, in other words. People who do those things obviously do think that they're very elite for going to Oxford, and that's all I would say on that. Yeah, I have met some as well because some of the ISOC members went to Oxford Brookes. There are some like Oxford City, just members who aren't students who sometimes come to the ISOC events as well. But I think, yeah, through society events, you can probably meet Oxford Brookes students and then vice versa. I don't think there's much tension though. What makes a good university? I think caring about the needs of students, having good courses, having a good ranking, just the general amenities you offer in your dorms maybe, having a varied curriculum. I'm not an educator, so I don't have much to offer here, but those are a few of my thoughts. What are the pros and cons of studying at Oxford? There's probably a lot, but from the top of my head, one con is that it's very stressful, but many places are. The workload is just known to be more intense there. I think that's true. So yeah, it's stressful. So getting a degree from Oxford is great, but at what price? Your mental health will probably plummet. There you go. A pro, there's a lot of really cool opportunities to take part in if you go to Oxford, like in terms of societies or just other stuff. So that's really great to get involved in. You'll meet so many different cool people, but I'm sure you can meet them at other universities as well. Obviously, it looks really good on paper, and that might give you opportunities in the future as well. I wouldn't say it gives you an edge in terms of jobs, necessarily. It does sometimes, but not always. Like with everything, there are many pros and cons. From the top of my head, those are the few main ones that I would say. I was wondering how you decided what books to read and put on your personal statement. What I said to this person is that I think the books you decide to read depend on the tone of your statement, and in short, focus on your interests that you have talked about, and try and do some reading related to China. So for my one, I do know what I talked about. I talked about cave drawings, and then I talked about linguistics and all these kind of things that I don't want to get into detail because there's no point you maybe copying my answer when you should really talk about something that you're interested in. That worked for me because I know what I'm interested in terms of Chinese, and I had a lot to talk about, and I talked about it more in one of my interviews, for instance. But for you, I think find something that you're interested in and do a lot of research into that field. Don't expect to become an expert though, because the professors will be put off by someone who thinks they know everything. Wow, that's sad, isn't it? You know what I'm realising? Speaking is really difficult, so I'm going to answer this question for the third time. Dosti me, no sorry, no thank you. Let me answer this again. I'm going to cry, this is so difficult. Oh. Me testing my camera. Poop.